INFJs are often seen as mysterious, thoughtful, and deeply emotional. They aren't flashy or loud, and they rarely go after attention. Instead, they attract people in a quiet, subtle way. That's what makes them stand out. While some types use boldness to be seductive, INFJs do the opposite. Their power lies in being calm, present, and real. They don't use cheap tricks or try to be someone they're not. INFJs want real connection. That's why their style of seduction is slower, deeper, and more emotional. They don't want quick attention. They want someone to truly see them and understand what's underneath. And once that happens, it creates a bond that's hard to forget. Being seductive doesn't mean changing who you are. For INFJs, it's about showing the best of what's already there. Kindness, mystery, and depth. These traits might not stand out in a crowded room, but they leave a lasting impression on the right person. In this video, we're going to look at 6 ways INFJs can tap into their natural charm. These are habits and traits they already carry, and when used well, they can be incredibly attractive. These are not games or strategies. They're ways to connect in a way that feels true and comfortable. Each part of this approach is based on being genuine. That's why it works so well. INFJs don't have to pretend or push. They just need to show up fully as themselves, and the right people will be drawn in. Let's take a closer look at the first way INFJs can be deeply seductive without changing a thing about who they are. Way number 1. Embrace authenticity. INFJs are naturally deep thinkers. They care about what's real, and they don't like pretending. One of their biggest strengths is their ability to be honest about who they are. When INFJs are fully themselves, they have a quiet confidence that draws others in. It's not about being loud or bold, it's about being real. Many people try too hard to impress others. They dress a certain way, talk a certain way, or act like someone they're not. But INFJs don't need to do any of that. In fact, when they try to be something they're not, they feel uncomfortable and drained. They shine the most when they're true to themselves. Authenticity is attractive because it's rare. People are used to fake smiles, shallow talk, and surface-level charm. When someone comes along who is honest, grounded, and fully present, it stands out. INFJs often have strong values and deep beliefs. When they speak from that place, people notice. It doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be honest. Being authentic also helps INFJs connect with the right people. When you try to please everyone, you end up connecting with no one in a real way. But when INFJs show their true self, quirks, passions, emotions, they draw in people who are genuinely interested in them. And that makes the connection stronger from the start. There's something seductive about someone who's not trying too hard. INFJs who feel at home in their own skin naturally give off that energy. They don't need to show off. Their quiet strength and self-respect do the work for them. Others can feel that they're grounded and aware of who they are. Of course, being authentic doesn't mean sharing everything all at once. It's more about showing what matters most, speaking from the heart, and being honest, even when it's not easy. INFJs tend to think before they speak. They consider how others feel. When they say something, it usually carries weight, and that makes people listen more closely. INFJs can also use their authenticity in how they express themselves. The way they dress, the music they love, the books they read, all of it tells a story. When they let those things show, it gives people a chance to connect on a deeper level. It sends the message, "This is who I am," without saying a word. Being real builds trust. People feel safe with INFJs because they know they're not being lied to or manipulated. And in relationships, that's powerful. It creates comfort, emotional safety, and a deeper kind of attraction. So instead of hiding their true nature, INFJs can lean into it. Instead of pretending to be more outgoing or less sensitive, they can own those parts. It's okay to be soft-spoken. It's okay to care deeply. That's part of the charm. Embracing authenticity doesn't mean INFJs will connect with everyone, but it does mean they'll attract people who truly appreciate who they are. And those are the connections that last. Way number 2. Cultivate deep emotional connections. INFJs don't enjoy surface-level relationships. They don't like small talk or shallow attention. What they really want is depth, emotional, honest, and lasting connection. And that desire for depth is actually one of the most seductive things about them. People are often craving real connection, even if they don't say it. Most are tired of games and tired of pretending. So when someone comes along who wants to know their story, listen to their fears, and understand their dreams, it feels rare and special. That's what INFJs do best. They ask questions that go beyond the surface. They want to know how someone feels, not just what they do. They listen without judgment, and they remember the details. This kind of presence makes people feel seen, and being seen is powerful. It makes others feel important and cared for. INFJs have the ability to tune in emotionally. They can sense when someone's hiding pain, even if nothing's being said out loud. And when they gently invite that person to open up, it builds trust. It creates intimacy that feels safe and meaningful. This emotional sensitivity also helps them respond in a way that feels just right. Whether it's giving space, offering a kind word, or just listening, INFJs often know what someone needs in the moment. And that kind of connection is incredibly attractive. Instead of trying to impress with words or looks, INFJs build connection through emotion. They create quiet moments that matter. They give full attention when someone speaks. And they share their own feelings too, not all at once, but when it feels right. This give and take creates balance. Romantic connection is strongest when both people feel emotionally safe. INFJs make that possible by showing real care. They're not interested in short-term attraction. They're looking for something that lasts. And that long-term view changes how they show up from the start. They don't push or pressure. They move at a steady pace. And in doing so, they invite the other person to slow down too. This slower, deeper approach builds tension in a good way. It makes people curious and keeps them coming back. Not because they're being chased, but because they feel connected. When INFJs focus on emotional depth, they also feel more confident. They're no longer trying to be someone they're not. They're simply being the caring, intuitive person they naturally are. And when that's accepted and returned, the connection becomes magnetic. So instead of chasing attention, INFJs can focus on creating emotional bonds. They can lean into real conversations, gentle support, and shared feelings. Because in the end, deep emotional connection isn't just meaningful, it's unforgettable. Way number 3, utilize the power of mystery. Mystery is something INFJs naturally carry. They don't reveal everything about themselves right away. They take time to open up, and they often keep parts of themselves private. This can make them seem hard to read, but in a good way. It's one of the most quietly seductive traits they have. Mystery draws people in. When someone doesn't show everything at once, it makes others curious. They want to know more. They want to understand what's behind the quiet smile or thoughtful eyes. INFJs don't do this on purpose to play games. It's just how they are. They're selective with their words and their trust. This slow reveal is what makes INFJs intriguing. People feel like they're getting access to something rare. When an INFJ does choose to open up, it feels meaningful. It tells the other person, I trust you. That moment of trust becomes a strong emotional pull. INFJs don't have to explain every thought or share every story. Sometimes silence is more powerful than words. A look, a pause, or a quiet moment can say just as much. It keeps the other person engaged and wondering, in a good way. Another part of mystery is not always being available. INFJs need time alone, and they don't always say where they're going or what they're thinking. This space gives others a chance to miss them, to think about them, and to feel that natural pull. The absence makes the presence feel more special. They can also be mysterious in how they express themselves. Maybe it's through the way they dress, simple but with detail. Maybe it's through a song they share, or a short message that says a lot without saying too much. These small, thoughtful actions create a sense of depth that leaves people wanting more. Mystery isn't about hiding. It's about showing things at the right time, in the right way. It gives each moment more weight and meaning. INFJs often think deeply before they speak, so when they do say something personal, people really listen. There's also something attractive about someone who's not chasing attention. INFJs don't try to be everywhere or talk to everyone. They stay in their space, observe, and let others come to them. That calm energy makes people feel curious. Who is this person? What are they thinking? That curiosity can be the start of a real connection. Using mystery doesn't mean being distant or cold. It just means letting people come closer slowly. It means allowing someone to discover who you are over time. And that slow build makes each connection feel more important and real. For INFJs, mystery isn't something to learn. it's something to embrace. By trusting their natural quietness and thoughtful ways, they become even more magnetic without even trying. Way number 4. Express through creative outlets. NFJs often have a rich inner world. They think deeply, feel intensely, and carry a lot of ideas, emotions, and dreams. One of the best ways they share that inner world is through creativity. Whether it's writing, music, art, or even the way they decorate their space, creativity allows them to express things they don't always say out loud. This kind of expression is attractive because it gives others a window into who they really are. It lets people see their heart without needing to explain every detail. It shows emotion, thought, and beauty in a form that words alone can't always capture. For example, when an INFJ shares a poem or a song that means something to them, it speaks volumes. It tells people what matters to them, what moves them, what they've experienced. And sharing that kind of emotion takes courage. That courage is seductive because it shows depth. Creative people are often seen as interesting and thoughtful. They stand out without trying. INFJs, who express themselves through creative work, naturally create an aura that attracts attention. Not the loud kind, but the kind that makes people stop and think. But creativity doesn't always have to be public. Even private forms of expression, like a journal, a personal blog, or a quiet drawing, can still have an impact. When INFJs share those pieces with someone they trust, it creates intimacy. It says, "This is a piece of my world, and I want you to see it." This kind of sharing builds emotional connection, but it also builds attraction. There's something powerful about being able to show who you are in a way that's both personal and beautiful. It makes the other person feel like they're seeing something rare and honest. Even small creative touches can have this effect. A carefully chosen quote, a thoughtful letter, or a playlist made for someone special. These are all quiet ways to show feeling, and they mean much more than any big, flashy move. Creativity also helps INFJs feel more confident. When they create, they connect with their true self. They feel in control of their voice and their space. That confidence shows, and it makes them even more appealing. So rather than hiding their creative side, INFJs should share it when it feels right. Whether it's art, words, music, or even just the way they style their world, that personal touch invites people in. It creates beauty and meaning at the same time. That's what makes it seductive. It's not just about looks or words. It's about feeling. And INFJs have a way of turning feelings into something that others can see, hear, and connect with. Way number 5. Practice active listening. One of the most underrated forms of seduction is listening. Really listening. Not just hearing words, but paying attention with full focus. This is something INFJs do naturally. They don't just nod or wait for their turn to talk. They take in what the other person is saying. They ask thoughtful questions. They remember the small things. This makes people feel important. It makes them feel understood. And that feeling is powerful. In a world where many people feel ignored or talked over, someone who listens deeply stands out. When INFJs listen, they're fully present. They're not distracted or checking their phone. They're focused. And that kind of presence builds attraction. It creates trust. It makes others feel like they matter. INFJs also listen with their hearts. They can hear emotion in someone's voice. They can sense what's not being said. And when they respond, it often feels just right. They might offer comfort, ask a gentle question, or simply stay quiet and let the moment be. This kind of emotional awareness creates intimacy. It tells the other person, "I see you, I hear you." And that makes them want to stay close. Listening also shows respect. It shows that INFJs aren't trying to control the moment. They're letting it unfold. They're creating space for the other person to be real. That's rare, and it's incredibly attractive. Another reason active listening works so well is because it helps build deep connection quickly. When someone feels heard, they start to open up more. They feel safe. They share more. And that kind of sharing brings people closer fast. INFJs can use this strength in all kinds of situations, not just in romance. Whether it's a friend, a new date, or a longtime partner, deep listening keeps the bond strong. It also helps INFJs show their true feelings. By listening first, they make space for emotion. Then, when they share something of their own, it comes from a place of care and understanding. That balance builds strong emotional chemistry. So instead of trying to impress with words, INFJs can let their presence do the work. Their quiet focus, their thoughtful questions, their ability to stay in the moment, all of it adds up to something rare and deeply seductive. Way number 6. Display confidence and individuality. INFJs often feel different from the crowd. They think deeply, feel strongly, and see the world in unique ways. In some settings, this can make them feel out of place. But when they start to embrace those differences, they become more confident, and that confidence is a big part of what makes them attractive. Confidence doesn't have to be loud. In fact, for INFJs, it usually isn't. It shows up in quiet ways, in how they carry themselves, how they speak with care, and how they stay true to their values. This calm, steady confidence can be even more appealing than big gestures or bold behavior. People notice when someone is sure of who they are. They notice when someone isn't trying to follow trends or change just to fit in. INFJs, who walk their own path, even if it's different, show strength. They give off the feeling that they don't need outside approval to feel good about themselves. This self-trust can be seen in small things, how they dress, how they set boundaries, or how they say what they mean. It's not about being perfect. It's about owning their truth. And that truth is often full of depth, thought, and emotional insight. When INFJs accept who they are, they stop shrinking to fit in. They become more open about what they love, what they believe, and what matters to them. That kind of openness invites others in. It makes people want to know more, to get closer, and to understand. Even in romantic settings, confidence and individuality makes a big difference. It helps INFJs attract people who truly see and appreciate them, not just the image they project. It also helps INFJs make stronger choices, choosing people who match their values and letting go of those who don't. So instead of changing themselves to match what others expect, INFJ should lean into what makes them different. That difference is their strength. And when it's matched with quiet confidence, it becomes one of the most seductive traits they have. Being seductive as an INFJ isn't about playing a role. It's not about acting bold, putting on a show, or following what others do. It's about leaning into what already makes them powerful: their depth, honesty, and emotional presence. INFJs don't need to be someone else to attract connection. When they embrace who they are, quiet, thoughtful, creative, and caring, they become naturally magnetic. It's the kind of attraction that doesn't fade because it's based on truth. By choosing authenticity, creating real emotional bonds, and expressing themselves through art or emotion, they leave a lasting impression. By trusting their mystery, listening fully, and standing strong in their individuality, they invite others into something deeper. This approach may not draw the most attention in a loud room, but for the people who are paying attention, for the ones who value meaning and truth, it stands out more than anything else. Seduction for the INFJ is never about being someone else. It's about becoming more of who they already are. And when that's shared with the right person, it leads to connection that feels genuine, lasting, and completely unforgettable.